Good morning and welcome to City Talk. It's a weekly program we produce here at the City of Waco to educate and inform you about the operations and work of the City of Waco and help you be informed. It's also a podcast that we do. And we are social distancing again for the probably 25th or so time since we've been involved with this pandemic as it is. And today I'd like to welcome two people, one of which you have no problem identifying. Kelly Crane has been on TV far more than even I have been.
I don't know about
with the health district. Your title is, what are you?
Communications lead or public information officer.
I called you know-it-all myself. I thought that was really pretty good. And joining us also is David Litke, who is an environmental
health manager.
You told me that before, but I have no notes today to be able to write.
You know, Larry, we worked together for so long, we just know each other.
That's right, exactly.
He's the mosquito guy.
Well, the thing is, on this program today, we're going to talk about something besides COVID-19. And that sounds, I don't want to be trite about it because it's a continuing issue with COVID-19. We may talk about it a little bit more at the end. But we're talking about another opportunity to prevent ourselves from getting another environment, a virus, I guess it is. The virus that we're talking about. And we're talking about what mosquitoes carry. And these are numerous in nature. We're going to talk about preventing because it's now summer. We're outdoors. And we're working in the garden, and we're working around the pool, the beach, out in the park. That's where mosquitoes like to find us and bite us. Who wants to start us off on what we're talking about on mosquitoes?
Oh, wow. David, you know, you're the expert on mosquitoes. How are we doing so far this year on mosquitoes?
Well, this year we're doing great. There's been very little activity so far. And for the viewers, every year we initiate a mosquito control effort with the City of Waco, and it involves 10 city departments, each doing their part to eliminate standing water, eliminating just habitat that's favorable for the mosquitoes, and then encouraging people to remember to use insect repellent and to protect themselves from the mosquito bite. Well,
that group, and which I'm a part of from the communication standpoint, but that group you've put together for several years now.
Yes.
In the last, I know, at least 2 years, we've had a very low impact of mosquitoes causing problems that we would have expected. So kudos to you and the staff members or whatever else that done that. And those 10 departments that are involved, again, are taking care of the city facilities and reaching out and trying to take care of public areas and things. Talk about the kind of department involvement. Obviously, my department is the communications, so we get the word out along with Kelly. But you work with Parks and Rec and all those kind of give us a little idea of what different departments do to try to hopefully get this down to where it's a very minimal thing that we don't hear about anymore.
Right. The city departments are focusing on what they can do as the city to be responsible for mosquito control. And so it varies. You mentioned Parks and Recreation. They're maintaining the public lands, park lands. The Streets Department is maintaining the drainages and stormwater areas. Animal control, while they're out talking with people and making calls, they're looking on private property and talking with homeowners about mosquito control and eliminating standing water. Code enforcement, same thing, while they're out providing inspections and talking with people, encouraging them for mosquito control. My office, we will receive complaints about mosquitoes. You know, someone saying, I think I know a location where there's mosquitoes. For that, we investigate, and again, we try to eliminate the conditions and also inform people on what to do. So there's several departments. Solid Waste Division is involved. Utilities, you know, as they're working on water and wastewater to eliminate sites in easements, that sort of thing. So there's quite a few people involved, at least trying to do something.
Well, and I know you all set the best practices and best examples for our citizens, and then in the process of that, we're able to discover and find out what needs to maybe be better educated and communicated as it may be too, because that's what we're all about, and we want to make sure our citizens are all protected properly, and at least thinking it, because we get so consumed with COVID and there's a lot of things that are out there. So Kelly, as far as the communication side from the health district, how is it going to be for you to be able to continue to do your COVID and we do that. We're consumed with it completely. And we do not want to lessen that. But there are other things that are vulnerable population and some people who react very poorly to a mosquito bite and can get into some of the diseases that you all can talk about. And I'd start trying to name them, but nothing but COVID is going to come out of my mouth.
There's so many, because there's West Nile virus, and we have things like chikungunya. We've have Zika. We are fortunately in McLennan County have not been affected by Zika, and West Nile is our predominant issue right now, and that really has a predominant effect on older individuals. That it becomes serious disease. They develop encephalitis. For most people, it may be as simple as, I think I have a cold, and it passes in 2 days, but it can turn very serious very quickly. And so the idea is let's just prevent it altogether. And you want to think about pets and heartworms and how mosquitoes pass heartworms. So eliminating mosquito breeding grounds, protecting ourselves from mosquitoes keeps us healthy and also keeps our pets healthy too. And it allows us to enjoy the outdoors. It's summertime, like you said. People want to be out, they want to be out riding their bikes. Their kids want to be outside playing, and mosquitoes can really ruin a nice afternoon out.
Now let's drill down into the mosquito itself and why it becomes the bad guy in this story. Mm-hmm. Because it is the carrier. It does not have the disease. It has to, first of all, get the disease, whatever it is, chikungunya or Zika or West Nile or all those things we've heard about. Let's go back and let's figure out where does this mosquito pick it up, and then start talking about the areas and how far they fly, and that, what are our exposures? Because I know in the old days you'd say, McLennan County has a case of whatever, Zika or whatever. West Nile, for example. Well, that person could have been bitten while they were in Dallas this weekend, and they come to Waco, and then they get identified, then we get labeled with it, that type of thing. So let's talk about the mosquito itself. Where does the disease originate from, locally especially, from that the mosquito then carries it to bite me?
Right. Okay. Well, that's a broad question.
All my questions are broad. Okay. You should know that.
Well, depending on the virus determines where it comes from. For West Nile virus, it's actually a bird disease.
Okay.
The mosquito picks it up from biting an infected bird. And then it transfers to humans when it bites a person trying to get blood. For Zika and chikungunya, those are actually from infected people transferring to another person. So the reservoirs, you got birds and you got people. And then you also have encephalitis and then also dengue. So it goes back to the actual virus and what the reservoir is. And you're right, the mosquito's the transfer mechanism.
Right.
The good news is, as you mentioned, for West Nile virus, we have not had any reported cases for at least 3 years now. We were able to dodge the local transmission of Zika and chikungunya, which was occurring a couple of years ago. Dengue is another disease nobody hears much about, but it exists, and fortunately it hasn't migrated into the Waco area. Okay, that leaves encephalitis, which if you go to the north, it's there. If you go to the east, it's there. If you go to the west. Again, Waco, we're doing well as far as not having mosquito-related diseases, but we always have to remember the viruses are in the environment, so we always have to be on guard.
So those are the things we need to think about as we think about being outdoors. And the mosquito, talk a little bit about the mosquito itself. I don't think it travels, as you've taught me through the years, very far. So if you have mosquitoes in your area, it's most likely within a several block area at the most, or something like that?
At the most, even really homegrown in your own backyard. Mosquitoes don't travel very far. And so really, if you were sitting outside on your patio and you got bit, that mosquito probably was hatched very close to where you were sitting. So when we think about that, you don't think of hordes of mosquitoes coming from Dallas carrying West Nile. They're homegrown. So when you're thinking about your backyard, your patio, wherever you like to be outside, think about where would a mosquito like to hide? Where would a mosquito be comfortable laying its eggs. And so you look for those standing water locations, your gutters. If you have a tarp over your grill or you have a tarp over your boat, that's a great place for a mosquito to get under and hide with just even a teaspoon of water. So look for those places where there's hidden water, small amounts of hidden water, and keep those drained, because that means the mosquito won't have a place to lay its eggs. And then when you are sitting outside, think about, well, where mosquitoes like to hide? They like cool places, like us. They like the cool of the day. They like to hide. If you're sitting under the shade in that porch and patio where you're sitting in the shade, they like to be there too. So wherever you're out, you like to be out when it's cooler in the day. Mosquitoes are the same way. So think like a mosquito and think, oh, a mosquito likes this cool, nice place. It's not traveling very far, and here I am ready to be bitten. So think about how the mosquito, it likes the same things you do, so it's going to follow wherever you go.
Yeah. Again, they're basically blood hungry, and that's what they want. They want to bite into a dog or a person and get that blood and then transfer it. So as you just indicated, in my neighborhood, if I have mosquitoes, it's probably somewhere within my several block area. So I need to get with my neighbors if I'm taking care of my ground and make sure I don't spread it and cause more mosquitoes in that area. So, and of course, fortunately during the summer, we don't normally have, or unfortunately, we don't have that much rain. So most standing water is going to be generated by sprinkler systems and irrigation type things. And so we can be our own monitor as it is and notice where the sprinklers are hitting and whatever and pay attention to those. I've had situations where I've had, like you say, a spoonful. I've got a cap from some bottle I just had laying there, and it had water in it. I'm like, oh my goodness, I better dump that out and throw the cap away first of all.
Exactly. You know, you think about in large fields where they have, you talk about tires and there's water collection. And of course, that happens usually in places where there's no one living and they're abandoned and people are dumping. But when you think of your own backyard, think about those potted plants. You know, they usually have a reservoir underneath the pot. It's a great place for mosquitoes to hide. So keep that water fresh. Keep it changed.
Yeah. If you just joined us, we're visiting with Kelly Crane, who we all know from the Health District, as well as David Litke, who is over the environmental area. And in addition to what we're talking about now, as far as mosquitoes and that type of thing, you're the one that monitors and leads the team who does health inspections at the various food establishments and things like that, too. So yes. Those are a lot of different variety of things. But we're talking mosquitoes now. And so, again, if we have a case of West Nile, for example, reported, which we haven't, thankfully, knock on wood, for 2 years or so here. If we do, the chances of it originating in Waco is pretty small. Would that be safe to say that it could have been brought in from some other, or the bird had it?
Right, the bird had it. You can't say that. West Nile virus, that particular virus, is endemic into our environment now.
Okay.
So, but it depends, where did the mosquito pick it up from? Was it the local bird or transported in, etc.? But you can't say there's no viruses here. No, it's here.
Okay.
So that one, you got to accept it can be local.
Okay. All right. We mentioned personal protection. We talked about face masks, of course, for COVID, and you've got yours on, and I don't have mine with me, but it's in the car where
we're social distancing now. That's
exactly
important.
Right. We're social distancing here in our studio for those of you on radio and our podcast. But we do have methods of protecting from that as well. And talk about some of those, because you talked about the popularity of the times we want to go out in the summer is in the evening when it's cool and in the morning when it's cool. And that's what we like.
Exactly. Let's talk about the 4 Ds. We haven't even mentioned that yet, Larry. So let's start with the first D, day and night, which we talked about. And mosquitoes bite throughout the day. Different mosquitoes like different times to bite. So be aware throughout the day you're at risk. Then you also talk about defend. Use that mosquito repellent. DEET is considered the best. Some people prefer natural eucalyptus oil, different versions of that. That's great. If it works, if it keeps the mosquitoes off of you, use it. But it's important to remember that you use your mosquito repellent once as you're going out. It doesn't last all day. You have to reapply. So keep that mosquito repellent, whatever you prefer, keep it with you. So when you're out and about, you can spray down. If you're going to be out for the whole day, enjoying the pool, enjoying exercising, keep it with you and reapply. Then we talk about defense, and we both talked about that before, and that's drain any standing water. Look for that standing water in your area. That's another way. Another one is interesting, I think is challenging for Texas, and that's dress. And that's one where they say, well, you want to keep the mosquito off of you, so think about wearing long sleeves and long pants. That's a challenge in our heat, but it is something that you can consider. There are certainly different types of clothing that is light, that is meant to keep off mosquitoes or protect you from the sun. So look into that. The goal is keep that mosquito off your skin, keep that mosquito away from you so it doesn't bite you.
What about people who are, some people seem like mosquitoes bite them all the time. I can go out and frankly, they don't bite me. I must not be very sweet or very attractive in whatever reason to a mosquito. But I know I have a granddaughter that, I mean, she can just walk out there and all of a sudden they're like on her. Well, she is a sweet thing. But the same thing. Is there any science about vulnerability and what makes somebody more drawn by a mosquito?
Yes.
And follow up on that question, my long questions, David. Is there any correlation between that person and somebody who has an immune system compromise or somebody that's more sensitive to things like that?
Well, it's more of each person's anatomy and physiology. The mosquito is attracted to, well, three main things. Skin temperature. Some people are just a little warmer than others. How much carbon dioxide we breathe that we give off. Some people give more than others. And then also just body chemistry. We have about 400 chemicals in our bodies. And depending on that mix per person, sometimes it's a little more attractive to the mosquito. So it's actually a combination of things, but it's what each person has and whether or not they attract the mosquito or not.
But speaking to that now, those people who have immune system compromises, the vulnerable people, people of age, like myself for that matter, when a mosquito bites, it might, and it has the virus. It's carrying a virus. Just because you get bit by a mosquito doesn't mean you're going to get the virus. But if you do contract a virus of any of the Zika or any of the other ones we talked about, is it going to impact some people like that, the more vulnerable, the immune system, and hurt them more and cause them to get into more serious health issues?
It certainly can, and it's important to remember that, of course, we see that high probability in people that are more vulnerable with their health, but a young 20-something-year-old can have a serious effects from it. So remember that you're like, oh well, I'm healthy and I'm young, so I'm not at risk. And I don't get it. It only takes one mosquito to bite you. So be aware that grade group is our most vulnerable, that we really are concerned about and protecting. But for the rest of us, even if you're young and healthy, be aware that it can turn into something very, very serious. Again, for a lot of people, it's a mild cold, something that you wouldn't even think was an issue and probably wouldn't go to the doctor about. Where it becomes dangerous when it causes encephalitis, swelling of the brain. So you see people in a comatose-like situation. They're not talking clearly. Clearly something is wrong, like they have a high fever or something like that. And that's when you really need to get them to a physician. There's no medication. There's no specific treatment for West Nile virus, but they treat the symptoms and they make sure that the person's okay and help them fight the virus themselves, help their body fight the virus. So it's one of those tricky illnesses that for some people, they may not even know they ever had it. For others, it becomes very, very serious. Viruses seem to be like that. They just don't play by the rules. They kind of do what they want.
Yep. Okay. So we want to make sure we're protecting ourselves using DEET and things like that. I know each year when we would have larger number of cases, or at least reports of it, there was always a question, why doesn't the city or the county spray? And some of the things that we as a government are expected to provide protection over. Talk a little bit about that, because I know we're not to that concerned, but a lot of times that issue comes up. Why don't you spray? Because I remember when I was growing up, the DDT trucks would drive through the alleys.
And the kids would go play in the
Oh, man, it was crazy. And maybe that's what's the problem with me. I don't know. Yeah. Describe just a little bit about what other things, besides what our 10 departments are already doing to prevent and all this kind of stuff, what other things that people think we should be doing as a city to protect their health, and what's really just not reasonable.
Yeah. Well, people always think about, okay, what about mosquito spraying? Mosquito spraying in Waco and in McLennan County hasn't been done since probably 1980. Just not done here. And mosquito spraying as a control measure is not as effective as all the other methods, everything that we've discussed about. It's kind of a last-ditch effort type thing. And then, and it is expensive. Equipment, chemicals, manpower, vehicle, it all adds up. It is a budget issue also. But then the other thing too, we just talked about no diseases. There's not a big reason to spray.
Yeah.
There's no disease.
Yeah.
So what are we doing spraying? That kind of thing.
Yeah.
For people that do have a concern, or maybe they do have a tough spot on their property or something, they can do their own mosquito fogging. Okay. If you want, you can go to the store and get a portable fogger and the chemical and do it yourself. You don't have to wait for government to come down the street. The products are available at the hardware stores, Tractor Supply, feed stores, that kind of thing. And there are a variety of methods that can be done. But if someone is interested in fogging, for a better term, instead of spraying, that equipment is available for them to do themselves.
As I understand it, though, the spraying is also a very short-lived, as a very lifespan is very small as far as the amount of protection you'll get.
Right.
Once it hits, you either almost have to hit the mosquito because it's not as
right.
It won't last as
it's
long.
a very good point.
Yeah.
For the mosquito spraying to be effective, it's got to be at the right time, the right temperature, the right wind, and at the right time of day when the mosquito is out. Because you're right, the chemical has to hit the mosquito.
So it does not have a residual effect on leaves or plants and things where it might hide or whatever else.
Right.
Yeah. So I just like to always bring that up because a lot of times, that was the discussion we used to always have.
And, I remember when we had that discussion and there was a lot of talk about that. As a health district, we had many people calling us saying they have asthma. And that spray was definitely a concern for them. And it could go both ways. It can go either way. But ultimately, think about keeping that mosquito off of you. Think about those predictions that you can do for yourself.
I'm going to jump. Have we talked about everything pretty much on the mosquito thing? Because we don't have a big issue, but I wanted to bring it up because it's a topic that every year we need to bring to the eyes of the public and say, hey, this is a concern because it is a virus. Not like say the COVID, but COVID is a virus as well. So we got to protect, and that's what the health district does is identifies and helps monitor those kind of things. I know a lot of restaurants, food establishments have been closed and things. And real quickly, David, from an inspection standpoint, has that lessened the load? Are you still making your normal routine inspections, whether they're open or whether they're curbside or all that kind of thing?
Yeah, we're still doing inspections as we normally do. We have been inspecting the whole time. We are continuing to be essential employees. So we're performing our regular duties. So we are doing our inspections. We've had to occasionally reschedule and adjust because restaurants might be open or are delayed reopening or they've adjusted their operating hours. So for those situations, we're keeping track and making adjustments. But yes, we do inspect all restaurants at least 2 times a year to renew the permit, and then about 6 months later. Okay. So yes, we're still out there.
Okay, Kelly, I promised you would at least keep it to a little bit. We've got about a minute and a half left. Tell us what we've learned this week, because we had another spike in a whole lot of COVID cases, and people are going to get concerned. What is the best thing we can do?
Oh, gosh. Well, one thing is remain vigilant. We have gone really fortunately since this started for our community in March, and we've kept the numbers low because we remain vigilant of physical distancing, staying home, wearing masks, protecting ourselves. Now we need to do that. Texas is reopening, businesses are opening, we're getting out and about, but that doesn't mean that COVID has gone away. It's still here and it's still affecting us. The more time you spend out with others, the more opportunity you have to catch the virus. And that's the thing. We want to stop it at its heart. Another thing I would say is with contact tracing, people are nervous about that. They're afraid that we're going to come and get them in trouble, we're going to write them a permit, or we're going to, write them a ticket. That's not what we're here for. Our goal is to be a lifeline for people that have been exposed to COVID, for those direct contacts. One, make sure that we're stopping the virus, but two, to make sure that they're okay, that they're monitoring their health. So we're really here as a lifeline for people that have positive or direct contact. Let us be here to be the lifeline to help you.
And the best thing I can tell anybody is the fact that self-protect.
Yes.
You have to take care of yourself. Take care of others as well, but it's a disease that you can decide whether you can or you can't get it. And you, just like Kelly said, either stay home, stay away from, wear a mask, a face covering. Certainly for others, it might help a little bit for you, but it mostly helps for others. So that's Kelly Crane and David Litke, both with the Waco McLennan County Public Health District, has been our guests, talking about mosquitoes and other viruses and things. And thank you both, first of all, for all that you do to continue to monitor and keep us in the know about what's going on, especially Kelly, with the COVID thing. And it's just, we're in this for a long haul. It's going to be a good while. But thanks for being with us this morning.
All right. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
On a routine basis, the Waco McLennan County Public Health District inspects numerous food establishments throughout the county to ensure they meet health district requirements. Using a demerit system to record problems they discover, food inspectors gave the following food establishments 20 or more demerits between June the 8th and June the 12th. Trujillo's Restaurant at 2612 LaSalle Avenue in Waco, 22 demerits. Taqueria El Mexicano Grill, number 8, at 1516 North I-35 in Lacey Lakeview, 23 demerits. From time to time, the food inspectors also find situations that have significant, imminent, or numerous health hazards that may lead to a foodborne illness outbreak, gross unsanitary conditions, or other conditions that may endanger public health. The establishment is then required to temporarily close until such time the problems are corrected. Here's the name of the food establishment that was required to close temporarily last week. Kentucky Fried Chicken, located at 1133 North Loop 340 in Lacey Lakeview, was required to close temporarily for inadequate ventilation and no air conditioning. Employees were sweating excessively, flies and gnats, and floor drain problems. Now, we'd like to acknowledge the establishments that received no demerits between June the 8th and June the 12th. In Belle Meade, Dairy Queen at 3501 Belle Meade Drive. In China Spring, Jumpstart Early Childhood Education at 13,341 China Spring Road. In Hewitt, Safeco and Which at 100 Ritchie Road. In Lorena, Tommy's Food Store at 413 South Frontage Road. In Robinson, Fleetwood Snow Biz at 212 South Robinson Drive. Subway at 427 North Robinson Drive. In unincorporated areas of the county, Dollar General Store at 131 Pomelo Avenue. Homestead Market at 169 Halbert Lane. TJJD McLennan County State Juvenile Correctional Facility at 116 West Burleson Avenue. In Waco, Arby's Roast Beef at 723 North Valley Mills Drive. Cameron Park Zoo Plaza Cafe at 1707 North 4th Street. Common Grounds at 1123 South 8th Street. Crestview Healthcare Residence at 1400 West Lakeshore Drive. Drug Emporium at 5900 Bosque Boulevard. Flying J Plaza at 2409 South New Road. Curbside Coffee at 724 Franklin Avenue. MOD Superfast Pizza at 1015 Jack Colgan Expressway. Moroso Wood-Fired Pizzeria at 4700 Bosque Boulevard. Off the Cob Popcorn at 5301 Bosque Boulevard. Party Pack Liquor, Beer, and Wine at 3530 North 19th Street. Quick Track at 300 LaSalle Avenue. Rustic Grill at 816 North Valley Mills Drive. Sam's Satellite Bar at 720 Franklin Avenue. Shooters at 528 North New Road. Taqueria La Muñeca at 2418 Grimm. Taqueria Pablo at 2624 North 18th Street. The Corner Stop at 2524 Colonial Avenue. The Minnow at 3201 Overflow Road. Treetop Concessions at 1701 North 4th Street. Twin Liquors Food at 5201 Bosque Boulevard. Waco Bar Supply at 225 LaSalle Avenue. Waffle Chick Commissary at 608 Austin Avenue. Wendy's at 1015 North Valley Mills Drive. Z's at the Curry at 611 Washington Avenue. In West, Ready Brew LLC at 4214 North Main Street. A list of inspection scores for all Waco McLennan County food establishments is available on the City of Waco website at waco-texas.com. Just click on departments and scroll down to Health District. The food score link is to the right, listed first. We hope you'll join us again next week for more information about the City of Waco on City Talk. This program is produced by the Municipal Information Department of the City of Waco and is provided as a public service by this station.